Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. We got our back against the wall, we gotta fight back. I need a theme song, this the right track. I ain't got no cape or no superpowers, just confidence and self-esteem, the world is ours. I believed in me when nobody didn't. This ain't no freestyle, just some facts that's written. Come on, let's hear it for the boy. He bringing pain at the same time joy. I bob and weave through the crowd, so untouchable. At first they hate, then they loving you. It's a crazy cycle, but I'm going through it. I wish I was lying, that's why I show and prove it. I'm destined to be one of the best to do it. I ain't saying I'm the GOAT, but I'm closer to it. I should get a statue in the front yard. Man, I'm shooting up my stats like a shooting guard. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. I'll give it to you in 3D or even play-by-play. I'm your guest announcer, are you here today? Yo, let me get a show of hands if you rockin' with me. Ain't no stopping us now, we bout to bounce quickly. I'm about to start a movement, put your fist up. Everything all black from the wrist up, yeah. Leather gloves, no prints, what? We about to dip, deep cut, yeah. Now bring it back like a boomerang. Who that man, do that thing, coming through like Buddha Bang. Setting booby traps for girls and goofy cats. Hog tied and handcuffed through in the back. Zip locked and sealed up and tossed away. I don't know about your future, but it's bad today. I'm a prophet and a guru and the rap police. You in the belly of the beats, masterpiece. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes.
I don't want half of
'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. Slept in 'cause I don't care and didn't make the bed. Sip coffee on my couch, what can I do instead? No work, it's only fun 'cause it's all okay. 'Cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. Hey, I got a confession. Been losing all momentum. Just because it's easy, but that don't make it better. I wanna dig my hands deep down in the dirt. Take a walk along the street if I'm feeling dessert. All of this convenience just doesn't work for me. I wanna play with fire, let me get hurt. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Oh, I miss the summers with you and never swipe left to right. I snuck in your window sound ancient, but sons and daughters, that shit was amazing. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Go get your DeLorean. Yo, what you got in that bag? Candy, cigarettes, and a Playboy mag? Many used to have to work for that. Wait for me, gotta dial up. Can't call my landline cause it's all tied up. Just bike over then. Oh, oh, oh. Mr. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger.
Welcome to the live stream. Just let me hit the music off here, guys. And let me just flip over and let's do recording. Okay. Oh, this is screwed up. Welcome to the live stream, guys. This is going to be system build number 12. So hopefully everybody's having a great holiday. If you're in chat, please sound off. If you're having a good holiday and well, you just want to share. So let's get on with the system build today. It's probably going to be a pretty quick one because it is a system that basically does not have a graphic card, so it will be a little bit of an easier build, and we'll get through it today. So let's start with what you guys are going to need. Let me bring this over. Oh yeah. And let me switch over to that camera. Okay, so what you're going to need before you even start, you're going to need some sort of screwdriver. You're going to need my face up there because I just realized I'm not there. Hello. All right, so screwdriver, you need a knife of some sort, some wire ties, as well as cutters, and you will also need probably a flash drive for loading the operating system itself. So I already preloaded this, so let's move all this stuff off. For the hardware, we have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM, CORSAIR Vengeance memory. We have Crucial 1 terabyte drive. This is kind of a server today. It's kind of a Windows 10 server, so we need a lot of storage. Processor we went with is an AMD Ryzen 5000 processor, which is also the 5600G. Has built-in Radeon graphics, which is all they need. It just needs to be able to post. It really doesn't need anything special. Power supply is the Smart Series, Thermaltake Smart Series, Smart 600 watt power supply. It's more than enough for what they need. Again, there is no graphic cards, so this is perfectly fine. The Smart Series will work with any onboard graphics with no problem. ASRock motherboard, it's an A320M/AC. This supports this processor as well as a few other types. We may or may not have to update the BIOS before we do this with an older processor for this to work, because it may or may not work right out of the box, but we'll try it and see how it goes. In worst case, we have an old processor that we can flash the BIOS with. So let's start with getting the power supply out of the way. Oh, the case we have is a Fractal Design Core 1100. It is off screen right now because it is a pain to bring up here and try to show it all in one shot anyway, but you'll see it in a few minutes when I go to install into it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All the links will be in the description once I'm done with the build. We will put all the links in there as well to all of this stuff that you can find online and purchase directly if you wanted to, rebuild this same build. All right, so in the motherboard box, it just basically comes with a manual, a CD with all the drivers. I don't usually use this. This I usually just put off to the side. I may use the manual for reference on something, but the driver disk, I'll usually download the newest drivers. The dreaded I/O shield, which is going to go over here, and I won't forget it this time. The SATA cables, which we're not going to use, but if you have SATA hard drives, you can put those on there. Wi-Fi antennas, because this motherboard has Wi-Fi on it, which is a little different than most other ones. It just happened to have it. This is the screw for the M.2 drive, which is really, really small. We'll try not to lose that. And let's grab the motherboard out of the box. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to build on top of the box just so we have something to give a little bit of height while we work. Sorry about the crumbling. There we go. Let's see here. Oh, Obviously the anti-static bag, make sure to throw that out so you don't want to build on top of that. Extra cardboard we don't need. All right. It's a little bit slanted, sorry. There we go. Okay, this is a basic layout of the motherboard. Why did this come shifted like that? It's supposed to be brand new. All right, well, that's quality control going bad. Anyway, so let's see. Basically, you got your RAM sockets, your CPU, plug-in fan, your socket for your CPU itself. That's where you're going to put the M.2 and the Ultra socket. This also should have a second one. No, this is not this build. Okay, so it only has one socket, that's fine. On this side, you're going to have your front panel connectors down here, as well as your USB 2.0 and 3.0 connectors. Chassis fan is down here for some strange reason. I don't see a chassis fan. There's only one other chassis fan in the middle here, but there is nothing else. So, nothing for the front, but then again, we're not doing any fans in the front. We're only doing a rear exhaust fan, I think, so we should have no problem. Let's start with the CPU and the socket here. Just gonna unscrew this because we're not gonna need these. Some connections require this little clippy bridge thing. We're not gonna do it. We're using the one that's built in with, that comes stock with the cooler, and the one that comes stock with the cooler just requires the screws. It doesn't require the little clip down. If you're building this for yourself, keep these off to the side. In my opinion, they're good to have just in case you decide to change your cooling solution. You have a different option to go with. Let's open up the box and open up the CPU without cutting myself. Okay. Okay, in the box, we have the Ryzen processor, manual, which we don't really need, and we got the cooler itself. We're not going to take the cooler out right now just because it has thermal paste on the bottom of it, and I don't want to mess it up while I'm installing everything else. You should do one thing at a time. To install the processor, just lift the little lever. Open that up. Take the processor out. And what you're going to do is you're going to line up the little arrow with the arrow that's on the motherboard. I'm not sure if you guys can see this arrow, but there's a little arrow on that side of the socket. This is just going to drop into the socket with all the pins lined up very carefully. That's it. You shouldn't have to give it any force. Once it's in the socket though, you want to just hold it down with one finger, very gently, and then put the lever back down to close it up. Plastic you can get rid of. This had stickers on it. If it's your system and you want to put stickers on your system, you can. We don't put the stickers on because that's another thing we got to line up and put on there. Unless the customer really wants the stickers, then we'll do it. But majority of the time, nobody wants the stickers. So, sorry. I don't know if some people are anti-sticker, I guess. All right. So on the bottom of this, on this heatsink / fan, you'll see that there is a circle with already pre-applied paste. We're going to use the pre-applied paste because it's already there and it's not worth wasting money. But if you want a different paste, you would clean this paste off before you put a new paste on if you want to use a different paste. In my opinion, this is perfectly fine for this type of processor, but if you want to like overclock and stuff like that, you may want to decide to change the paste just to get better results. All right, so that's going to line up with these 4 screw holes. These 4 screws will line up into that. And when you screw down, what you're going to do is you're going to screw down from one side to the other side. And then just the same thing. You just go to this side, and then you go to the reverse side. Diagonally across, of course. It's just like building furniture. You want to have even pressure down on everything instead of pressure all over the place. You don't want to also give too much pressure to one side at one time, because you may end up cracking the IHS on top, and that will be a very bad day. So after that, what you want to do is you want to connect your CPU fan. You're just going to plug that right into the one that's labeled CPU fan on the motherboard, which is up here. It's a 4-pin connector. Let's get this out of the way for a sec. And what we're going to do is we're going to install RAM next. So RAM. We went with CORSAIR Vengeance LPX memory. We just use CORSAIR memory because it's just really well tuned and we really haven't had that many defects on RAM, both for the amount of systems that we purchased and built, so it's not a bad RAM. So all right, what you're going to do is you're going to basically take the RAM out of the holder. There is a piece of annoying plastic that's wrapping over the stupid logo. Just take that off before you put it in. So just peel that off. And you're going to line this up with the socket. There's a little notch here. You're going to make sure that that notch is following the same notch on the board. It'll only go in one way. You should not have to force it, so it should just drop into the socket. And just give it a little push, and you should hear a click. This board only has clips at one end, so this clip has to be opened before you push it in, obviously. The other side has no clip, but you have to slide it straight in. Some have clips on both sides. If they do, then obviously you would open up both before you start. Same thing, you repeat the process again for the second stick. If you have 4 sticks of RAM or 4 sockets, you can just continuously repeat this process till all of your RAM is installed. If you have 4 sockets, you may want to also look up the motherboard and make sure that you're plugging the RAM into the correct sockets if you're not going to populate all 4 sockets. You want to make sure that you're in the proper ones. This motherboard only has 2 and we're only using 2, so it makes it really simple. But if you have 4 and you're only using 2 sticks of RAM, you'll want to make sure that you're plugging them into the correct 2-stick area. They'll usually be in the motherboard manual. The motherboard manual will tell you exactly which sockets it is. Usually it's one socket, then you skip a socket, then you go into another socket to make that work. Just get this out. I'm just going to install the hard drive at this point. I feel like my microphone is peaking out. Hopefully, if anybody in chat can tell me if this microphone is a little too loud. Something is happening. Like it's really close to red or something. Anyway, hopefully it's working right. All right, so this is going to go into the M.2 socket here. This is just going to slide in a 45-degree angle, and then it should go down to this. Now, that screw that we were talking about before with the motherboard, that you're going to need. I'm just going to take that out and out of the plastic. This screw is extremely small. It will not work with this screwdriver, so you're going to need a smaller one, which I'm going to grab from over here, which is just a small iFixit kit. Nothing. You can use any screwdriver. You don't have to use iFixit. Just happens to be what I got here. Okay, just put the screw onto this just a little bit, and then screw it down into the board. It should hover like that a little bit, and it should stay in place. It shouldn't be popped up. And that's all you have to do for the motherboard portion. So we're going to bring this over to the case at this point, and we can start installing everything into the case, including power supply and everything else. So let's do that. Let's move this off a little bit. Just going to take this out of the way. Take the box out. We don't need the box anymore. We will need the power supply in a minute, so I'm just going to put that over here. Not crunching anything. Okay. Okay, so this is the, this is always hard to view. This is the Core 1100 from Fractal Design. It's got white-black design on it. Very minimal face to the front, just, you know, very simple design case, nothing really that difficult. Put this over to 2. Oh, whoa, it's way too close. All right, we're gonna take this off, take the panels off. So I'm just gonna unscrew the 2 panels. Just put them in my tray here. When you're building a system, you should have a tray of, for screws and stuff. Try to have a tray or something to put it on. You could put a piece of cardboard too. You could also use the motherboard box, since you're already taking it apart. Just don't want to lose any screws. That was a little rough. Okay. Just put these off. Just bear with me for a second. Sorry about the camera view here. It is really close to that camera, which is why it's looking like that. Just take the sides off. When you take the sides off, just put them in a nice safe spot. Make sure they don't get scratched. All right. There we go. So, let me get my tools because I buried them. Yep, so don't bury your tools. There we go. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to get the accessory box, which has all the screws and stuff in it. You want to take that, put that off to the side for right now. I'm going to clip this so that I can actually work here. I'm going to just take these wires down, as well as undo this one. Just a little bunch. Take that out. Make sure to take all this plastic and metal out of the case. You don't want that in there. Make sure that's not lingering anywhere, like this one. You don't want that in your case at all. And of course, if it's stuck, you got to cut it out. Yep, welcome to my world of aggravation. It's stuck underneath into the metal piece here. So we're just gonna take that out. This is usually for your 2.5-inch drives or 3.5-inch drives, but it got stuck on something, so toss that. And if I can get it back in, we'll leave it out for right now, because just in case we got a little more room to build. There is a front fan. I thought there was a rear fan in this case, but there's a front fan, so we're going to have to run this cable a little longer in front of the motherboard to get it connected. Just happens to be the way it is, so not a big deal. Just a little bit annoying. All right. In this case, the power supply mounts on the top of the case. This is the top, by the way. So it's going to mount up here. There's no reservoir down at the bottom, so we're going to put this at the top. That's where it goes, and we're going to do that first, just because usually we do the motherboard first, but since we're doing a power supply on top, you'll want to do the power supply first. Let's rip the power supply open. Okay. Power cord, what's in the box for the power supply is very simple. It's just some instructions telling you what the connectors are. You can read that if you need to. And the manual for that, I'm going to put it off to the side there. Power cord with some screws. So we're just going to take the screws and the wire ties out and leave that off to the side because we're going to need that. The power cord just put off to the side because obviously you're going to need that to plug in your computer. And for the customer, they need it for installation. So let's take the power supply out. It's already double wrapped. Let's leave that there for a sec. The box you can get rid of. And just open up this power supply. Okay. Power supply itself is a Thermaltake Smart Series 600 watt. If you're shopping for a power supply, let me just quickly show you a problem with this type of power supply. It says total power 600 watts. If you're installing a graphic card, you'll want to make sure your 12 plus volt rail is 552. You see it's different from 600. That means the max that you really could be putting into the system is something about like a 300, 400 watt graphic card, because you got to have some overhead for your processing power and stuff like that. So really it's a 552 watt power supply. The 600 watts just means total power combined with the original max voltage on the other side. So if you're looking for a graphic card and you're about to install a graphic card and you are going to be choosing a power supply, be sure that your power supply has the 12 volt high enough to cover whatever graphic card you're putting in. If you're unsure, just go a little higher, just to be sure. But you can also just double check. Like they usually have this sticker online or in the store on the box. You can actually see it. So, all right. How we're going to install this is very simple. We're going to install the fan portion downwards into the case, because obviously the top does not have any type of airflow, so you don't want to have too much. You don't want to have it crunched against the top. You want it pulling air in from the bottom and pushing air into the bottom. So what you're going to do is you're just going to get all your wires out of the way, push this up into the top. It's got little grooves, so just follow the same grooves and slide it in place. This one's not that hard. This is the top part of the case. You're going to take the 4 screws, and take out the wire ties. That's garbage. Comes with 4 screws. They're just the regular 4 screws for the power supply. If you mix them up, I'm going to show you what they look like. They're very, very small. They do have a professional name. I am not going to give you the professional name because no one's going to really care, because you're going to have a hard time really seeing what the difference is without looking at it. So let's focus. There we go. So this screw is a little bit thicker than most. You'll see that's a very thick type of screw. Most of the time it's rounded on the top or squared off with a It's actually squared off with a Phillips screwdriver, Phillips connection there. But this is the type of screw that you're going to be using for the power supply. This is also kind of the same thread for the socket side, or the case cover also uses kind of the same thread. It's a pretty thick thread. The motherboard ones are a little thinner, so you won't want to use those. Let's go down to the case. I don't know if I can get a good shot of this, but let's try. It is screwed in from the back of the case. So you're going to need to line up with the 4 screws in the back. They only line up in really one way, so you really can't make a mistake here. If you're not sure, use a regular screwdriver and try to thread it in. If it doesn't thread in, then you got the wrong screw. And try something different. Just 4 screws. Be sure to screw all 4 screws in. Do not miss any. Alright, once that's screwed in, you're going to take all of these power supply cables and get them out of your way for now. And you're going to get all the front panel cables also out of your way. Just tuck them outside of the case somewhere. So they're out of your way. This is out of your way. You want to get down to the motherboard area. Now, let me get in a little bit here. The motherboard area, you're going to see those standoffs here, which are missing obviously because they expect you to put these in. Those are going to be in your accessory box. Okay, so if you have an accessory box, now some cases don't have an accessory box; they just have an accessory bag. Let's not, let's not go into over terms here. It's just all the screws for the system. You'll see they come out this way. They also give you some extra wire ties, which we could always use. Put those over there. Of course, I dropped one in there. Yeah. And in the box, just toss it. Bag. You're gonna open up the bag and go through the screws really quick. Yeah. All right, so this little bag has got all of the motherboard screws and some of the hard drive screws, etc. So I'm going to put this up. I'm just going to open it up. Let's put it on a platform here, a little screw platform here. Let's just do that. Hopefully I don't drop anything this time the minute I say it. All right. I'll just empty everything out. We'll just go through screw by screw really quick. They're not really labeled on Fractal, which is, this case is a little less expensive, so they kind of expect you to know what you're doing. All right. So, screws. First off, these are the motherboard stand-ups, these little silvery screw handles here. I'll put these off to the side. So you could always sort all these. I'm just going to sort a few of them so we get an idea. But, you know, these are just regular captive thumb screws. Not captive, I'm sorry, just regular thumb screws. And then these are usually for the hard drive. These are a little bit longer, and they go through the metal, the plastic grommets on those for if you're putting a 3.5-inch drive in, you'll need to use those for there. We're not doing that today because we have an NVMe and that's it. So we don't really need to use those. Let me get this all sorted here a little. All right, they also have a security piece that you can put on the back of the case. That goes off to the other side. There's a little screw hole for it. I don't put this on because this usually is more dangerous than it is worthwhile. It usually just allows you to put a lock on the side of the case so you can lock up the case so no one can get at your parts. It is the most dumbass thing in the world because literally you could just cut this with, with a regular, wire cutter. It's very thin, so it's just kind of pointless. We don't put them on because actually I've cut my hand trying to grab a case and try to grab a side when it actually got bent. So we don't do that anymore because no one ever really uses them and it just becomes a big problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to test which screw actually is supposed to go for the motherboard. And we're going to grab one of the screws. And what I'm going to do is just try to thread it in there before I put in the case, which is this one. So this is the motherboard screws. And I'm just going to show that really quickly here. That is a motherboard screw that goes into the standoff. It's a little bit thicker than a screw for like your CD-ROM or anything like that if you had a CD-ROM. But it's a little thicker than this screw. So you can see a difference. These are a little bit thinner and smaller, but that's not what you want to use. You want to use a little bit thicker one, and that's going to go into your motherboard. So let's go back. All right, at this point, before I forget anything about this stupid I/O shield, I'm going to put the I/O shield in right now because I forget the I/O shield all the time. So I'm going to do it ahead of time because if I don't do it, I forget, and then I'm going to have to take apart the whole machine to fix putting the I/O shield in. So, all right, the I/O shield, this is the back of it. You'll see there's usually these little metal pieces. Just if anything's like a little metal tongue, you just push those up a little bit so that's out of the way. These are okay. These will just be like spongy. But you want to make sure this is up and out of the way so that when you go to put the board in, it doesn't come directly in contact with the port. You're under it and it doesn't go into the port itself. On the back of the I/O shield, front of the I/O shield really, it shows you all of the connections, including Wi-Fi, USB, keyboard and mouse, which is the PS2 port. That says a PS2 port? All right, seriously, I did not know that it had a PS2 port. I thought they got rid of this port. Anyway, HDMI, USB, and it also has your networking and your audio, and it tells you microphone in, out, stuff like that. So this is going to go towards the back of the case, and just plug in. Flip it in place. Should pop all in. Just be careful. This is metal. This is sharp. It is aluminum. You could cut your finger. If you're not sure, just maybe wear a little bit heavier gloves or something to push this in so you don't end up cutting your finger accidentally. I didn't need it because obviously I've done 1.5 billion of these and I really haven't hurt my fingers, so I'm okay. Now you're going to choose where you're going to put these little standoffs. So you got to figure out what's going on here with this. And to do that, you need the motherboard. So we're going to bring the motherboard back in. And what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at all the holes, all these little holes that have basically a pass through. So all these holes are going to line up with the standoffs that are down here. So in this case, we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws and 6 standoffs. So it's going to be this one, and this one, not the bottom one. So, shoot, you can't see that. So it's going to be this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one. So let's put that in. Let's get the standoffs in. So you're just going to take each standoff and just screw it in. If they don't screw in easily, you can use a little tool to basically put them in. iFixit has it as part of their toolkit, as their Manta toolkit. It's just basically like a nut driver. You can use it if you want. I don't really use it very often unless these aren't pre-drilled enough, and you need to kind of like force it. If that's the case, then you may want to use that tool to make it a little easier. You don't have to use that. You can still just, just twist them in like I'm doing right now, which is perfectly fine. But if you want to have like a little extra torque, you can do that. Okay. So there. All right. Now we're ready to put the motherboard in. So we're going to slide the board in. You're just basically going to take the board. I'm actually grabbing it from the heatsink because I know it's screwed in there pretty well. If you have a different heatsink, you may want to be careful where you grab it. If the heatsink is a little wobbly, you may not want to use that. You may want to use the corners of the board instead. I know this one's pretty secure, so it's not a big deal. You're going to line them up with the standoffs that you just put in. You're going to make sure that you count and make sure that you put in the same amount of screws. If this is your first time installing, make sure that you have the same amount of standoffs as you have screws that you have screwed in. If you don't, pull the board back up because you made a mistake, and you need to make sure that there are no standoffs underneath the board that do not have a screw hole through it. Why? Because if you do, then you may end up having a short to the board if that screw is in contact. The standoff is in contact with the back of the board, one of the exposed circuits on the other side. You're going to have a problem and it may cause a short. So sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Why take that chance? Just fix it now before you proceed forward. If this is your first time building, you don't need to use an electric screwdriver. You can just use a regular turn screwdriver is fine. You don't need anything fancy. You just need to make it work. You repeat the process all the way throughout until you're done, which I need one more. And that should be 6. Okay. Now, if you're installing a graphic card, you still want to wait off a little bit, but that's what you would be installing it here in the 16X slot. You will need to take out the panels here that go in line with that. If it's a 2 slot or if a 3 slot, you would take out whatever corresponding ones that would require. Obviously, the first slot is always lined up with exactly the edge of the first slot that you're plugging into. So this one is actually lined up to here. This one is lined up to the second spot. It's a little off, but if you look at it straight on, it's actually perfectly in line. So I'm going to do power cables first, and I'm going to do the front panel, and everything else. So let's do the power cables. What you're going to need, I'm going to untangle these a little bit. There we go. Okay. So here's your motherboard connection. It's the biggest one, so you really can't miss it. Put it down here a little bit so you can see it. This gets plugged straight into the board. On this side's the only one it'll fit into. Make sure you line up the clip with where it's supposed to go, and you should hear it click into place, and you make sure that it should go pushed straight down. If it is fighting you, do not push hard. Stop what you're doing. You obviously have it in the wrong direction, or you don't have it lined up correctly. Start again and take a look. If you really want, you can take a little more look at like the actual plugs and stuff. They are keyed, so they have these little keys that make it look simple. Actually, this is the PCI Express. Where's the one for the CPU? Here we go. So Thermaltake actually labels them, which makes it a little nicer. It actually says CPU. That's the one that goes to the motherboard. The one that says PCI Express or PCIe, this goes to your graphic card if you have a graphic card. We are not using this because we don't have a graphic card, but if you do, you will use that one. Do not mix these up, because if you mix them up, you will have a bad day and you may end up blowing up your motherboard because you may be giving too much power. Now, this board, this power supply comes with them connected like this, which gives you 8 pins. This board only has a 4-pin connector, not an 8, so we're just going to separate them to do that. You usually just pull them apart and they snap apart. You can then take one side and plug it into the board. And make sure you go the right direction, of course. And of course it's really dark because you have a dark board and a dark connector, but you plug it in, it should only go in one way. They're all keyed. So if you're pushing too hard, you go in the wrong direction, re-look at the adapter or flip the adapter over and then try again. I'm just going to tuck a little of this cabling back. It's not going to really stay, but I just want it out of my way for right now. Now, there's all these other connectors and power connectors. We're not using any of these today, but I'm just going to go over them really fast. So this one has, seriously, this one has a floppy connector, which we don't usually use anymore. This is a 4-pin floppy connector. You have, which I guess you could use for a tape drive. There's a Molex connector. This is kind of an older connector. They do have a bunch on there for Molex. They're all just the same. Then you have these are SATA connections. Sound is a little overmodulated. Yeah, I know something's up with my sound. Sorry guys, I knew something was off. Let me just see if I could try to fix it a little. Bring it down a little. How about now? Is that better? Let me know if this is better. I'm going to bring it up a little, just a little bit more. A little bit. There we go. Testing, testing. Okay. I think we're all right now. I thought it was a little too high. I don't know how that happened. All right. You love my hat. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's Christmas. By the way, this lights up. I don't have it lighting up right now. We'll light it up a little bit later. I just don't have it on because it's kind of distracting to the camera. It's like doesn't know how to adjust. Anyway, so these are SATA connectors. These are for your, let me know if this is better sound, by the way. Somebody in chat, just let me know if it's like too much or not. I'm surprised no one said anything else, but anyway. These are SATA connectors. These are usually for hard drives or CD-ROMs or any other device that you want to plug into. Too low now. Darn it. Alright, I'll turn it up just a little bit. I don't know how this got messed up. Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, that's kind of high now. Bring it back down a little. Sorry guys, this is a little bit of technical difficulty. How about now? Now. Yeah, that's better. That's in the more yellow, almost red area. That's still a little high. I don't know why this isn't automatically turning the compressor on. Ugh. Horrible. How about now? Still too low. Alright. Let me check the compressor. compressor is on, but it's ratio. Yeah, it's too high now. Now I'm showing red. Wait a minute. Better? Okay. Well, you know, we'll run with it, and hopefully it's not too high. Okay, so these are SATA connections. These are going to your CD-ROMs or other 3.5-inch drives or 2.5-inch drives. It's better? All right, I'm sorry. I don't know why the compressor is not working 100% right either. That's a whole nother story. I'll have to fix that later. So PCI Express, obviously these are for your graphic card. They have more than one. They are, some of them are pigtails together like this. If you need more than, you know, the regular, what is this, 8 pins, you can go with, you know, something with double 8 pins. We don't have any graphic cards today, but, you know, if you do, that's fine. It's just more SATA connections. That's it. There are no more of the connectors on the power supply, so you should be good to go. Let's work on the front panel connector. So what we're going to do is we're just going to separate the thin wires out. These thin wires are for the front panel connector. They are labeled. Okay, a little bit labeled. Hard drive light, power switch, and then one is labeled power LED. Now, all the LEDs have plus and minus, and those are very important. Plus has to be connected to plus, minus has to be connected to minus, or the light will not work. Now, you really can't damage your board by putting these the wrong way, but you really should make sure that you put them in right the first time so you don't have to drive yourself nuts around, you know, second time around. So what we're going to do, we're just going to plug them in. I'm going to start with the hard drive light, I think. Yep. They plug into the board. They plug into the bottom part of the board. It is labeled front panel connectors. In this case, it's called panel 1, but you can look up your motherboard manual and you can make sure you've got the right one and the right thing. Is there a reset button? There is no reset button, so we don't have to do that. Just power button. By the way, the switch doesn't matter. The power switch doesn't matter which way you plug it in. It will work regardless of positive or negative. It's only the LEDs that you must, the little lights, that you must put them on correctly. Now, this case does not come with a speaker, so if you need a speaker, you're probably better off getting a different case that comes with a speaker, because this one does not have it, or you can take one from another case that you may have instead. Going to connect the fan in the front. So I'm just going to take that out, put this across. The only problem with this board is that the fan connector is way across the side of the case, so we're just going to have to deal with that and then connect that in. It's not that big of a deal because this case does not have a window, but if you had a window in this case, I would probably find a better way to route the wires so it looks a little neater, but in this case it really doesn't matter. Literally in this case it doesn't matter. I'm going to be plugging the USB 3.0 connector, which is this blue connector. It is denoted with very small pins. That is going directly to the one that's on the motherboard that's also labeled USB 3.0. You should be able to plug that in with almost no pressure. It should just plug straight in. The other connectors that are for the front panel are HD audio and USB 2.0. USB 2.0 is denoted by a USB, actually it says USB 6 on here for whatever reason. Okay, someone labeled this really horribly on this board, but it is the only one that fits that block, and it is labeled USB, so I guess, you know, you really can't make a mistake. It does have a pin blocked out on it, so that this one is the audio adapter, but the one for USB is blocked out on the left side here. That will only make it allow it to plug into one type of connector, so you don't make a mistake. Audio is in the way back part of the case, and it is also keyed out, so you can only plug it in one way. It should go right on nice and smoothly without any hard pressure. Now, this is kind of a cabling mess. That's a lot of cable, and it's really messy. So, but back to sound problem. All right, well, we'll have to push through it with the sound. I don't know. Let me try to bring it down a little bit. Hopefully we're not too low. I don't know why the compressor's not coming on. That's probably another reason why my voice is all screwy. So hopefully it's not too bad. So we're gonna cable manage all of this. We're gonna just take all of this stuff and use some cable ties to tie this all up. What you want to do is make sure that you tie in one direction. So in other words, I'm going this way. And the more that you go all in one seamless direction, it will just look nicer, but keep all the wires out of the way, but it won't really add anything to the rest of the case. It'll just be a little bit neater. If you have a window, I recommend that you spend a little more time, but yeah, I don't know why this microphone is picking me up so much. Like it's even picking up my little tying noises. It shouldn't be doing that. Sorry guys, we'll have to get through this stream and hopefully I'll do an audio test next time around. Somebody messed with something somewhere. Probably me. Alright. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to clip these. Now we're going to just tuck that cable down and out of the way so it doesn't interfere with any of the ports. Push that back away from the fan also. I usually try to tuck them as much as I can in a direction that basically allows for better airflow, nothing getting in the way of it. And that's it for this part of the cabling. I'm going to just tie all of this up. This is all the extra cables, so what we're going to do with all the extra cables, we're just going to take everything, pull it forward as far as we can, then ravel it back and up. So now everything is nicely all one nice big piece like this. Oh man, I was small. I'm going to open up another thing of ties. The ties that came with it are okay, but they're not great. So we're just going to use my own, just because they're a little bit better. I'm just going to put these together. Okay, I'm just going to tie those as a bunch, and just going to cut off the tails of the ties. And we're just going to tuck all of this cabling up into the CD-ROM area, since this does not have a CD-ROM, and it's not going to need one. So we're just going to tuck that all the way up there. All the cabling can go up there. Just try to bend it carefully. Not too much, just enough to get it up there and in place. If you want, you could put another tie there. I think it's kind of okay. I'm just going to push this CPU cable in between here so it gets stuck in there a little bit. If I can get it in there. There we go. Just to get, kind of keep it. It's not going to stay down. All right, we'll tie it over there. Use a small tie. All right, it's all tied up. So at this point, we're ready for a test. We're ready for a boot test, and we can see what's going on. Let me just try one more button push on here and see if this makes a difference. Is that better for the sound? I pushed a button on the wireless unit that might be bringing me down a little bit. There we go. I'll put this back up. Back up. Test. Test. Sorry, guys. I think I might have found the button. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, it's dropping down lower. Okay. All right, so hopefully this sounds a little bit better. The compressor's still not working 100% right, but at least the button on the wireless mic is working. All right, so this is the completed, yeah, there we go. Completed system with cabling all done, cabling here all done. Let's see if it tests boots. I have a feeling it may or may not boot because of the fact of this processor may not be supported with this board off the first BIOS. So we may have to swap the processor out and then switch to something else temporarily. But let's switch back to my screen for a second. Let's get over this way. Okay. All right, so there we go. I'm just gonna plug in all the cables really quick and we'll switch to that screen and see if it boots up. Hopefully it does. Oh, you're gonna need a keyboard and mouse obviously to test with, as well as a monitor. I thought that was kind of common sense, but just to make sure. Let me get a keyboard and mouse. This time I have come prepared. I actually have now a stationary keyboard for this studio area. So we now have a keyboard there. And we have a mouse. A nice mouse. I'll take the case away. Alrighty. Keyboard. Just plugged in. I forgot to put the plug in. USB-C. There we go. All right. Let's put that there for now. So I just have very little room on this table here, so I'm just making the best of it. But you really probably should put the keyboard and mouse on the table. All right. Let's hope for a boot. Okay, so I'm going to switch this over to that screen. It's going to be black right now. There we go. All right. Plug, power. Power. Okay, so far so good. Turned on. I have a bad feeling it may need a BIOS update. If it decides to boot. Yep. Yeah, it's a little too long. Okay. Does it have an error light? Nope. This board doesn't even have an error light, so it's a little harder to figure out, but it's probably the CPU. Just try one more boot, just to be sure I'm not going crazy. Yeah, no good. All right, so we need to use a different CPU to fix this. This has happened before with a different board, but not a problem. Let me just flip back to the other screen so you guys aren't staring at a black screen. And we're gonna have to switch it over. What fun. All right, that's what happens. Let me unplug this. Let me just pull all this off to the side for right now. Keyboard off to the side. Let me get a different CPU. You also unplug this so I don't shock myself. And let's boot up with a different CPU. Okay. If this happens to you, you're going to have a different lower CPU or higher CPU, depending upon the situation, to switch out to. And of course, I just tied all this down, so I'm going to have to clip one of these, unfortunately, so I can get the CPU fan out. To get the CPU fan out, you should do the same thing. You should go reverse order, just screw to screw to screw to screw sides. That's it, diagonally. There is thermal paste on there, so just be careful not to get that on your hands. I'm going to take 2 seconds and grab the processor, some thermal paste, and some gloves because I don't want to be touching this because it gets everywhere. And some paper towels. Be right back. Just 1 sec. Okay, processor. Thermal paste. That's plastic gloves. Add some plastic gloves. Yep. I'm probably gonna have to do this twice. There we go. When this happens, it kind of is a pain in the butt because you're gonna have to take the thermal paste off and then back on again, just very temporarily. If you don't have a tube of thermal paste, you can buy this for like $6 or $7. Comes in a syringe. That's the easiest way to put it on. Just put some gloves on really quickly. Just because I don't want to get my hands on this. The thermal paste, once it comes onto like contact with your skin, it's not a problem about washing it off, except for the fact that it's hard to wash off. There's nothing really about like poisonous or anything about it. It's just, I mean, I wouldn't go eating it, you know, but it would be, you know, it's not good to have on your hands because it like literally gums up everything else. So I didn't grab the alcohol. Shoot. More. Darn it. All right. All right. I'm back. You'll also need, I got 99% isopropyl alcohol. You're going to need this to get rid of the stuff off the processor. Do not pour it directly on the processor. I'm also going to try to fix the audio really quick since I'm already here. And we're already having to deal with this. Pressure on, pressure on. How about now? Hopefully this works better. Direct input, test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Hopefully that worked. I don't know. All right. Yeah, so don't put the alcohol directly on the processor. What you're going to do is you're going to use a paper towel or something and just put a little bit on there and then fold it over and use it as a cleaning corner and just wipe it off. Now this will start wiping it off, but you may want to go to a more drier spot, like you see this gray garbage. You don't want to get that gray stuff even on the gloves. Try not to, because then it'll stick to other stuff. Just clean that off. Over here. God, it smells like a medical office. All right. I'm looking for the plastic that I had for this. There it is. Okay. Sorry. Just going to put it back in its little plastic bin so it doesn't get destroyed. The pins on the bottom are very sensitive. You don't want the pins to get bent. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull that lever back up again. You're going to take the processor out very carefully. Put it back in its little package. Close that back down. And just put that off to the side. Now, I'm going to use a garbagey processor. When I say garbagey processor, it's just an older processor because the newer one doesn't obviously it's not the BIOS, it doesn't support it yet. So we're just going to take this processor out, which is just a Ryzen 3, I think. Ryzen 3 3000X, 3300X, I'm sorry. And hopefully this one is supported. Where is the arrow? Wow, the arrow on this one is really, really small. It's in the upper corner, just like it was before. There we go. Just down. And we're just going to give it a little bit of thermal paste, just enough to, like, you know, basically we have to boot. And it's not really the right amount for this, but we're going to wipe it off anyway. So just enough to make sure it doesn't overheat. Little bead. There you go. Now, before you put the fan back on, you're going to want to clean the fan, of course. So this fan, you want to just clean the heatsink portion of it. So just use the same paper towel, just put a little more alcohol on it. I try to use the highest percentage, like 99%, because at least this way you have less water in it, so it also dries a little quicker. Or at least in my opinion, it dries it quicker. I don't know if a lot of other people say that, but it looks like it does. There we go. Because you have to wait for this to dry a little bit, but we're just gonna fan it off. And yeah, it's dry enough. Okay. So we're gonna put this in back down on the board, hopefully without breaking anything. And of course, I didn't break anything, I just need to hold the other end. I hate this when this happens. This is not pushed up all the way. Okay. Where the hell? So you gotta push up a little bit on the case to get the screws to come up. And of course this case does not have an opening in the back, which again is really dumb for where the processor goes. Back of the processor. So usually this would be a lot easier if it did have a back, an open back. But it is what it is. Let's just make it work. Okay. Got it. Plug the fan back in. This is going to be the reverse when you're ready to do, after you get the BIOS flashed. It's going to be reverse of this. I'll take the gloves off because it's getting annoying. All right. Now, I should be able to lift this up. Oh. We're going to re-plug it back in. I'm going to go to the other camera because that's pointless. Wait for a minute. Plug in. Keyboard, mouse. Keyboard and mouse. Oh, come on. Mouse. nasty thing. God, I hate that smell of that stuff. Did I close the bottle? Yeah. Oof, it's leaking a little bit. Yeah, I'll put that over here. All right. Okay, so let's flip it on. Yeah, let's go to camera 4. Turn me on over there. There we go. See if we power up. Does that have a discrete GPU? Oh, this is such a torturous thing. Why do I have a processor that requires a discrete GPU? All right, well, that's a pain. I have a graphic card around here somewhere. I think I ran into this problem last time too. I have the same CPU that is requiring a graphic card, which I happen to have. Yes, I have one over here. Okay, that's fine. Can't win. Some days, this is what happens. So, I'm going to put the graphic card in really quickly. This is just to get it booted. So let me just unscrew. This one also doesn't require power, I don't think. No, so it's just a really boring graphic card. Turn that off. Take that out. Obviously save the back pieces because we're gonna not have a graphic card in here at the end. We're just gonna have a regular standard connection without the graphic card. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. Okay. Just gonna clip in place. Just give me 2 more seconds, guys, and we'll be hopefully booting. Okay. I'll move this down. If I can see. There we go. Okay, this one's HDMI. All right, take 26 of this. Let's try again. Let's see what we got. Come on. There we go. All right, so we're going to go on the BIOS. If I was pushing the right button on the right keyboard. Plugged in. There we go. Let's go to the BIOS. All right, so in the BIOS, let me put myself down here. Okay. So in the BIOS, we're gonna have to do, obviously it's on version 7.10. So it needs the newer version. Luckily, I have loaded the new version onto this flash drive. So I'm gonna just put this flash drive into the back of the unit. And we're gonna go over to the thing called Tool and down to Insta Flash. And of course, it's gonna say, please suspend your BitLocker. Okay, if you're using BitLocker, I mean, this is a new machine, so there's no BitLocker, there's nothing on here. So, but if you do have BitLocker installed, you do need to take notice of what your BitLocker is before you do this. We're gonna go to, I have loaded both 7.0 and 7.4. Luckily, we're already on 7.1, so we just gotta go to 7.4. We can just hit update. If we weren't above version 7 on the website, it does clearly state that you need to load like basically version 7 before you go forward. So we're on 7.4. Let's go to 7.4. Do you want to update? Sure. Okay, now it's going to update the BIOS. It's going to take a few minutes. During this time, before you go to run this update, which I probably should have mentioned before I started running it, you should be on a UPS battery, because if it says do not power off during UEFI update. If you do accidentally power off the system, this motherboard does not have a recovery BIOS. So you will be pretty much SOL, okay? And that's not good. So it'll be dead, the board will be dead. You're gonna have to probably either RMA the board, or you may have to buy a new board, depending upon if you have RMA, available to it. So I'd be very careful about this whole procedure, and just kind of run it. Make sure you're not running it during a lightning storm or anything. But especially if you have a UPS battery, just use the UPS battery, and run this before, on a UPS battery while you're running it and installing it. Same thing for a laptop, by the way. Even if laptops have batteries, it's still something to consider to make sure that you always have direct power and that you do not turn off during this process. Some boards are a little quicker than others. Most of the time this update usually takes about a minute, maybe 2 minutes at most. Unless it has to update, like Intel boards have a Intel management interface, or Intel ME interface. That may also require some time for it to update and boot. So while we're doing that, I'm going to take a look at the audio over here and why my audio is so screwed up. I don't know why it is all messed up. The compressor is on, releaser is on, output, input. That's correct. I think it needs to be lower just a little bit. I think that's better. That's a little better. It's a little more in the yellow. Okay, that's better. I don't know how this got screwed up. Yeah, it's good to know about all the BIOS stuff. Stars. Yeah. Yeah, once this is complete, then we can switch it back to the other processor and see how it goes from there. I don't know why the compressor is all screwed up. I don't know how this got changed. I don't know. I might have to play with this later. I noticed that my levels are still a little high for the audio. Especially when I talk, if I talk downwards, it's supposed to be handling it, it's not doing it. All right, we're almost there, 88%. And then we're just gonna change out the processor back to the other processor, and we should be able to boot into it. I don't think the other processor requires a discrete graphics. No, it has a built-in graphics. Yeah, if you were really curious, it's building a little gray symbol. Programming successful. All right, so what it's going to do is going to go through another reboot process and a memory train process. So that may take like a few seconds. Just wait it out. Don't go crazy. Do not turn off the system. The fans are going to ramp up and ramp down. You may not hear this because obviously I'm not too close to the unit, but the fans do accelerate up and then accelerate down during this whole little boot process. And then you're going to just see the BIOS screen again. I'm just going to hit the delete key to get back into the BIOS, just so we can go make sure that we're on version 7.4, which you can see here is 7.4 for the BIOS. So we're on the newest one. I always double check the RAM too to make sure we have the proper RAM, which we do, 16 gigabytes, just in case one of the sticks got stuck. You don't want to start setting up the BIOS right now. You want to just exit and you want to switch out the processor first and then set up all the rest of the BIOS. So we're going to power this off. Power off. Okay. And now we're going to switch it out. So we're just going to take the keyboard and mouse off. I'm going to go back to the overhead. I didn't have the overhead on before. Sorry about that. I forgot to hit the button. So that was my fault. Put this back over here for a sec. Just leave that over there somewhere. Okay. All right, we're going to take that graphic card back out. I have to lay that on the machine. Do that. And let me put the overhead back on. One sec. Ugh. Too much stuff around here. Okay. Let's bring that back around. Put back to 2, me on corner. There we go. Okay. So that was all fun. Now we just need to take this processor back out. So same reverse procedure, just corner to corner. Unscrew. Pop this off. I'm going to put some gloves back on so I can clean this up really quick. It's easier to clean the processor when it's still in the socket, so you don't have to keep handling it. That's the reason why you see me cleaning it up in the socket. You just got to be very careful with the alcohol and make sure you don't get it on any other components. It won't really damage stuff too badly, but you know, why take that chance? You know what I mean? You shouldn't really have to. Oh, by the way, don't use your regular paper towels for this. You should use ones that have less fibers, so you're not scraping things. These paper towels are really, it's actually the cheaper ones that don't have as many fibers. You can also get the ones from like an automotive store or something like that. They work pretty good because they're like shop towels. They work a little bit better than this. These are kind of really too cheap. They're not picking up really anything. Do not do that over the thing like what I just did. It's probably not a good idea. All right, that's clean enough for this processor because it's kind of our test processor anyway. We're going to put it back in its little clamshell. Again, just be very careful. Just put it into the clamshell gently, close it back down. It should fit nicely. This is going to go back into here so I don't mess up the boxes here. Put that off to the side. Okay, and then we're going to take our original processor and put it back in place. And we're going to put enough thermal paste on there, a proper application of thermal paste this time around. Okay, in place, just hold down, again, lever down. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to get the syringe of thermal paste. Since this is the same thermal paste as the previous one, if you want, you can clean off the processor top. I'm going to clean it off really quickly, but you really don't have to because it was just recently put on there as long as it's not dry. I'm going to put a lot on here because why not? A little more is always better. Oh, we ran out. Yeah, it should be enough anyway. It's like a little dollop of it. You don't need like a whole bunch. You just need a little bit to go a long way. Now, if you're doing a processor that's a lot larger, like an EPYC processor or a Threadripper processor or an Intel Xeon processor that happens to be the higher end, that happens to have a bigger die, then you'll want to cover a little bit more and put a little bit more thermal paste on. But this should be more than enough. A little pea-sized drop is enough to cover the processor, and that's all you really need to do because the rest of it's going to spread out. So we're going to just put this down and screw this in. Hopefully I can get this in without having to push up, but okay. By the way, that little noise, that's not a bad noise. That just means that it stops at 17. stops at 17 pressure, so it's not going to keep, you know, screwing down further past the board. It'll just make that clicking noise. That just means I'm done screwing in, and it shouldn't be screwing more than that. Plug that in. Just keep the wire out of the way. It should be fine. All right, at this point, I'm going to take the gloves off because we don't need the gloves. There, those off. Put that somewhere. Okay. And we're going to go back to trying to boot again with the proper processor at this point. Let me go back to this one with me on here or in the corner. Probably the corner. There we go. Let me get this out of my way. All right, let's try to boot. Well, we shouldn't require a graphic card at this point, so I'm going to take the graphic card out before I do that, because there should be no reason for the graphic card. It should just boot straight in. So I'm just going to pop that out really quickly. That's not on screen, sorry, but this isn't really a tutorial about graphic cards anyway. There we go. Just going to pop the graphic card out, just put it off to the side. Close this because that's smelling. Okay. All right, we're ready for another boot. So we're going to boot up the test. We're just going to plug back in power, keyboard, all that wonderful stuff. Basically repeat exactly what I just did 10 minutes ago. Keyboard. Mouse. Keyboard. There we go. All right, so we're ready, and we're on the right screen. It's a miracle that Brian put it on the right screen. Hit power. All right, nothing blew up yet, so that's always a good thing. Let's see if we can get a screen to show up now. Come on. Unless I get a bad processor. No. It's still doing its thing. There it goes. Wow, that's a very long boot. All right, so what it's telling you on the screen right now is it says new CPU installed, FTPM PSP NV corrupted, or FTPM PSP NV structure changed. Press Y to reset if you have BitLocker or encryption enabled. This is what I was talking about with BitLocker, because I was changing between processors. BitLocker locks it down to your processor and encrypts based off of your processor and this TPM module. So in this case, I don't really care. We're just going to say yes to reset because we don't need it anyway. We're just going to go in the BIOS really quickly, if it lets me in. What I'm doing on the keyboard is just hitting the delete key. My delete key happens to be on this side of the keyboard. It's a small keyboard. That's why I kind of put it up here so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. I mean, it's not really visible. Okay, so we're on the new BIOS. We have the proper processor. It's a processor type here, AMD Ryzen 5600G with Radeon graphics. Processor speed's correct. You don't have to worry about the microcode. Total memory 16 gigabytes, 2133, which is wrong. It's supposed to be 3200, so we need to fix that. So we're going to go down to load XMP settings. We're going to change this to XMP 2.0 profile, which is the proper profile, and that's 3200 speed with all those lovely timings. We change that, and it doesn't like the DRAM voltage. Let's check it. No, it's overclocking it a little bit. It's fine. All right. We're going to go back over. That's really all you really need to change in your BIOS if this is a fresh new machine. If it's not a fresh new machine, you're going to have to fix your BitLocker and your TFTP, especially if you have Windows 11. It'll probably screw it up. So you may have to go through that and fix it on your own. We're going to have another video about how to fix all that. Right now, since this customer doesn't want to go to Windows 11, they want to stay on Windows 10 right now, which I kind of agree with them at this current time. I am going to turn off the TPM module. Now, AMD labels it FTPM switch. So what you want to do is just disable that, and that should also keep you on Windows 10. We did have a video about Windows 10 and Windows 11 and how to do that, but that's where you would do it here in the BIOS is the easiest way. I'm just going to go through all the rest and just take a quick look through if there's any other changes. I'm just making sure the hard drive is there, which it is. We don't do deep sleep or any of that stuff. We do turn off the serial port because there is no need for a serial port. And we'll just leave that auto. Trusted computing. Yeah, there's nothing to change here because we already turned off TPM, so nothing to really... I mean, if you want, you guys can go through all this stuff with your motherboard manual. I don't really change very much in here because we're not doing overclocking, we're not doing anything crazy. Boot options, we want to boot to the USB flash drive first because we have to load the OS. So we're going to use the UEFI Samsung flash drive because that's what I have. But if you have a different flash drive, it'll be labeled whatever flash drive you have. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save, and it's going to reboot, and it's going to start loading Windows because I already made a flash drive for Windows. Eventually. Okay. Now, before you load Windows, you really should do a memory test. I'm not going to do a memory test right now because it is a very long test to do. And I already know that the system is probably fine, but we're going to definitely run a test before we go. We also reformat the machine again. This is just for you guys for an example. Right now, we're going to install Windows. You just choose your language as the first screen, and then you just install now. It's going to find the hard drive. We only have one hard drive set up, but if you have two, you would do that. I'm not going to enter a product key right now, but the customer will have a product key when they're done. If you have a product key, you should enter it at that point. If you do enter your product key, it will automatically select your OS type. In this case, since I didn't enter one, I'm going to select Windows 10 Pro because that's what it's asking me to do. You don't want to choose any of the ones that say N on them. Those are a different type of Windows, and that's not really a standard one. So hit Next. You just have to agree to the agreement. I usually do a custom install. I do not do an upgrade, so just do custom. You're going to select the hard drive. In this case, there are no partitions. But if there's partitions on your drive, you may want to select which partition you want to delete and which one you want to install onto. In this case, we don't have any partitions, so we're just going to select the main drive and hit Next. Now, if you want to partition that drive, that's the time to do it also. You can partition it like a D drive if you want a little extra space on a separate drive letter instead of being them all on one primary. Since this system is just going to be all on one system, we're not going to make two different partitions. I'm just doing that for a simple setup. But since they're using this as a Windows 10 server, what I would normally do is set up a separate partition for their data so that if we have to wipe away C drive, we can do that without erasing their data. It also makes it a little easier for backup because if you're doing all of your network storage on the D drive, you can then set your backup to backup only your D drive and you don't have to back up your C at all. Because you're gonna, the C doesn't really make too much of a difference if it's a server. All right, this installation is really boring. It's gonna go through its little numbers and then it's gonna reboot. Okay, there it goes. We can hit restart now. We don't have to wait for this. Now it's going to restart, and it's going to restart on the hard drive. So even if you left your flash drive plugged in, it should go right into booting off the main drive. As long as you have a new BIOS. If you have an older BIOS, you have to go back into the BIOS and select the bootable drive as the Windows boot sector drive. You don't need to do this in this case because it's a newer machine. You'd have to be a really old computer for it to do that. This is the normal process. It just says getting ready. Microsoft loves to tell you absolutely nothing about a progress bar. But how long this will take, it just takes its time. Okay, you might go through a few reboots. This is normal. Just let it go. Don't touch anything. Just let it go until you see a desktop. Now it should be going into the regular Windows. The first boot is usually checking devices, what devices you have plugged in, etc. Now, if you don't want to use a Microsoft account, make sure that you have your Ethernet unplugged and make sure the Wi-Fi is off before you start this process, because it will not let you go. It'll want you to make a Microsoft account, and that will be really annoying if you want a Microsoft account, or if you don't want one, you would go the opposite way. So at this point, you just choose your region. We're in the United States, so we're going to go with that. US keyboard layout, sure. We're not going to add another keyboard right now. You can do that if you want. We're going to skip that. Now it's trying to get us to connect to some sort of wireless. I'm going to say no, I don't have internet, and I'm going to continue with a limited setup. Because if we connect to the internet, it's going to now want a whole, like, you know, Microsoft setup, etc. We're going to create a basic user. We're just going to call it B1 for boot once. We're going to leave no password for now, but you should probably choose a password. I'm going to turn all this junk off. This is all the tracking crap. If you want to turn this garbage on, you can do that. I like it all off. Accept. Cortana, I usually say no because our customers don't really use Cortana. They're business computers. If it's a home computer, you can hit accept now, and if you want to use Cortana, you can. It's just kind of like Google Assistant and kind of like Amazon Alexa. It's kind of the same thing, you know. Oh, hopefully I didn't trigger anybody's device. Sorry if that did that. All right, it's gonna take a few minutes. Don't turn off your PC. Yeah, probably not a good idea. If you do turn off your PC during this time, it is still recoverable. It's just, it's gonna make a mess. So yeah, try to be careful. This is also the same screen they kind of use when they are like updating Windows and stuff like that. During updating of Windows, again, you don't want to turn off the PC during that time. It could crash your system. You can get a lot of corrupt files and a lot of other problems. All right, any day now. All right, so of course it puts me in a bad spot. There we go. So when it comes up, it's going to ask you about Edge. You can just say maybe later. And at this point, you're pretty much ready to start loading drivers and a bunch of other stuff. I already loaded the drivers onto the flash drive. So we're just going to copy that onto the system. I usually copy it to the C drive and I make a folder called B1 for us, so we know where the drivers go. Paste. Takes a second. There we go. Drivers are not that large for this system. And you're just going to extract all these. It's pretty much the same process we've done before, where you just extract the driver, you install, you run the setup. These drivers can be found online. But what I made, when I make these disks, when I make a USB flash drive, I'll put the actual Windows load first, and then I'll go down to the motherboard manufacturer, grab all the drivers for that. If you have a graphic card or any other devices, you'll need to also grab the drivers for those. In this case, this system only has a built-in graphics, so there's no need for a secondary one. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go back and extract the chipset. Boot once again. Yeah, there's a lot of booting. But hey, you know, at least you should only have to boot it once after we're done with it. chipset, Bluetooth. This one happens to have Bluetooth. I don't know why we didn't really need Bluetooth for this. It was just the motherboard that we could find that happened to have it. All right. Do this one. It's an Intel Bluetooth chipset on an AMD motherboard. Interesting. And just typical. This is pretty much next. If you notice, I'm not really customizing anything here. Oops, I missed one. I just turn off the power management support for AMD because I don't really like that profile. And I like to install all of the Radeon graphics, yes. You should probably also install one at a time. I'm installing a lot at once here. If you don't know what you're doing, just install one at a time. It's not going to hurt anything by just doing it one at a time. If you do multiple, sometimes you may end up in a little bit of a boot loop. There we go. It's just the graphic card driver loading. That's that blink. It's going to say restart required a lot. That's okay. I just don't want to have to restart like 6 times. So we're just going to do a quick version here. What was I up to? Audio LAN. They're all on zip files. That's why I have to hit extract all first. You could also extract them before you make the USB flash drive. That would probably make sense, but I did it kind of rushingly. This is going to say restart, but right now I just want to hit finish for now. So we restart only once. These chipset drivers are still going in. So I'm going to say no, I'm not going to restart right now. Same thing here. I'm just going to load the LAN driver. Some of the AMD chipset drivers also force a reboot by itself, so you may want to save that one until last. I kind of went a little bit out of order because I just kind of loaded up everything really quickly. We're going to reformat this anyway before we give it to the customer. This is just, again, for your examples here to show how to load everything. But yeah, you may want to just save the chipset for last, or just do one at a time and reboot a few times. This chipset driver takes forever. Now, if you're doing your own system, when you connect to the internet, it's going to ask you to activate your Windows. If you already put a key in, this should be not a problem. It should just activate straight up. If you didn't put a key in, you're going to have to put the key in, so you'll have to go back to the activation screen and put it up. If you don't, it'll continuously remind you in the corner, but it won't remind you the first day. So this may be a surprise later if you don't do it kind of like right away. And to find that, you can hit Windows key I, and you can go to Updates and Security, and then you can go to Activation, and it will allow you to do it in here. Obviously, I'm not connected to the internet. That's why it doesn't understand what's going on here. It's not activated because it can't hit the Windows activation servers. It does need to reach out to the internet to activate. You can also do an activation by phone, but that may take a little longer. It is recommended you just activate through the internet. It is faster. This driver is taking a very long time. Let me just see. Are we waiting on something? No, it's the only thing open. It's just probably taking its time. Yeah. Can we close this? No. Oh, it was already done. All right, let's see. Do a reboot. All right, once that's done, we just do a reboot. All the drivers should be loaded in. At that point, you really should load up the internet and do the rest of the remaining Windows updates. Put in your product key, install your product key, and install all of your programs. Pretty simple. And yeah, that's where we're going to cut the stream because I have to load up all the rest of this stuff for the customer. But at this point, yeah, that's all you really need to know to actually get the whole system built. At this, also, you have to close up the side case panels. I mean, that was kind of common sense. I think somebody made a comment last time. They were like, you didn't close up the panels. You don't have to, I mean, but I would recommend you do so you don't end up with a whole bunch of dust and garbage in your machine. But we're going to shut this down. And let me put this back to my main screen here. And that's basically it. I mean, it's pretty simple to build a machine as long as, you know, you don't have an issue with the BIOS and you have the proper processor in there. You shouldn't have any issues. Now, if you buy your parts from, let's say, a Micro Center or even a Newegg or somebody like that, you can contact them about a temporary processor to borrow to flash the BIOS if you need to. If you're doing something with Newegg, though, I would recommend you contact Newegg before you buy your motherboard to make sure that the BIOS is already up to date before you receive it. They will probably tell you that they're going to have to open it to do that if they are going to update it for you. If you don't, then you may end up having to borrow someone else's processor to do that. AMD used to hand out processors for a loan just to flash the BIOS if you needed to do something like a low-level flash. But I think they stopped doing that because it's probably a pain in the butt to deal with. If you buy it at Micro Center, they'll flash it for you. So you can just go back to the Micro Center and they'll flash it. They shouldn't have any problem with that at all. If you buy it from us, obviously it's working before it goes out. So, all right, that's it for the Christmas stream. Guys, hopefully you guys have a really good Merry Christmas. Hopefully you have a great holiday. We will see you in the new year. There's going to be a lot more videos coming up, so I recommend you stay subscribed. We have a lot more newer stuff coming out that is for security patches and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's really worth staying tuned for it. Yeah, we'll